everybody, and welcome to my first segment of Cooking with Magic. Today we're going to be making Angrbodas cookies, and I'm going to show you the recipe as well as walk you through step by step and some of the magical properties of it. Now before I start cooking, anytime I do cooking magic, I'll always cleanse my space and I get it set up. So I actually have a tea light candle that I made for Angrboda, as well as I have my wax warmer with my protection rune on it. So I'm just going to get that started right over here on the side. And then I also have some pine needles that I wrapped myself. I'm just going to light those and use those kind of like you would a sage bundle. They're dried, and so it works kind of in the same way. You can cleanse your space however you like, but it's always good when you're going to be doing magic to cleanse and get your space set up. It's not necessary. I know chaos witches, I can be a little bit of a chaos witch. It's my personal preference, and it's something that I like to do. Pine needles are associated with Angrboda because she is the witch of the ironwood, and she is absolutely wild, but she is also known for her magical properties and her magical strengths. So I'm gonna let this burn over here to the side, and we're gonna get set up and get ready to start making our cookies. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put my apron on. You don't have to wear an apron, but I actually got this shirt from Holy Clothing, which is not sponsoring me, but they totally should because their clothes are amazing. And I have a bad habit of going like that when there's something on my hands, so I grabbed one of my aprons that I've had forever that need constant washing, and I tie it on so that when I go, I don't ruin my beautiful shirt from Holy Clothing. So we're gonna start with our wet ingredients. So the first thing we're going to do is take 1 cup of butter, which I already have softened. I let my butter soften and sit overnight. And then we have 3/4 cup of honey. And then instead of using an egg, I substitute it with chia seeds. Now I'm going to go over the magic properties of each one here in a moment. But chia seeds, you take 1 tablespoon of chia seeds and 2.5 tablespoons of water. And it gets to kind of a gooey consistency. Those chia seeds absorb the water and it becomes almost like a paste, and it's your egg substitute. Now the honey is actually a substitute for sugar as well. Again, I made these substitutions because of the magical properties. So we're gonna go over those. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my 1 cup of butter that's already softened. I'll go ahead and show you how soft it is. It's ridiculous. See, already softened. I let mine sit out overnight in a sealed container so that it can soften at room temperature. Now I'm going to add the 3/4 cup of honey, and the thing with honey is no matter which pantheon you work with, I personally am a Norse pagan and work with Angrboda, Loki, Hel, Fenrir, most of the gods that have to do with Ragnarok, which we'll get to that later. Honey is often viewed as sacred in every pantheon, especially the Greek pantheon. I have a friend who works within the Greek pantheon. It's an amazing offering for any deity, and it holds magic. It actually is used in some binding spells because it's very sticky. So you can use it to bind a couple together, or to hold a family together. A lot of people use it in binding spells, but because it is very sacred, it's often used as a offering. So we're going to take the butter and honey and just mix it together, kind of like you would if you were making a traditional cookie with sugar and butter. You would cream it together. We're going to do that here with the honey and the butter, and you just keep kind of folding it together. And I am stirring clockwise. So I'm stirring clockwise so I can stir my intent into this. So when stirring with kitchen magic, if you stir clockwise, you are imbuing your cookies or whatever you're stirring with the healing benefits, with positivity, with energy, confidence. If you stir counterclockwise, you are stirring to reduce stress, anti-anxiety, help remove something, things like that. So I want to imbue these cookies for Angrboda with positivity, confidence, and healing energy. So I've got that mixed together. It's kind of creamy now. Would probably be delicious on a roll, but that's not what we're doing right now. And then we're going to take our chia seeds. So the chia seeds are going to stick in here. So I already sat them in water. They don't want to come out. So I'm going to use the end of my tablespoon to just push those right out into there. and then just stir them in, just like you would if you had your eggs. So just stir and fold. Again, I'm stirring clockwise to imbue that positivity and confidence and healing properties. Now, chia seeds on their own are actually a little bit magic as well. So first of all, they're amazingly good for you. There are some people who believe that the Mayans and other indigenous tribes used them for energy. And there have been some studies that have showed that they are really good with providing energy. They have some protein, they've got the, omega-3 and fatty acids. It has all the things that your body needs. So they're really good for carrying intention. Again, a lot of kitchen magic is intention. And if you don't have a positive intention, then sometimes your food, which normally tastes great, you don't understand why it doesn't taste great this time. But you were in such a bad mood when you were cooking. A lot of Southern women will tell you that they add a little love to it. It does change the flavor. It's all about that adding that magic. So here is our butter, honey, and chia seeds all creamed together. And now we're going to add a few more ingredients, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about Angrbodas. Right, now we're going to go ahead and add our extracts in. Now it's 1 teaspoon of vanilla and half a teaspoon of almond. I personally adore almond flavoring, so I'm actually going to use a teaspoon of each because these are my cookies, and that's the best part. Those are your cookies. You can make them however you want. So we're going to go ahead and add a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of almond. Now, when it comes to flavorings, there are natural flavorings and artificial flavorings. It's going to come down to personal preference at that point. I love having natural flavorings, but I'm going to be honest, I can't afford to go get new flavorings right now. It's just not happening right now. See, that's why we have that. I didn't even think about that. So, especially when you're cooking on a budget, there is nothing wrong with using artificial. It's okay. I don't care if it's as healthy. You can put the same intention in it. Oh, it smells so good already. Okay, no, we're not gonna eat the butter, honey, chia seed mixture. We're not. No, Crystal, no. So now we're gonna set that to the side and we're gonna work on our dry ingredients. So, got my little glass bowl here. So I'm gonna take 2.5 cups of flour, whichever flour you prefer. I'm using all-purpose flour. Again, when you're a broke witch and you're cooking, you use what you can get, and this is what I have. So we're gonna pour that in there. And not make a mess. I didn't make a mess. I didn't spill it this time. Aha. And then let me grab our other ingredients. All right, now we're gonna do 1 teaspoon of baking powder into our flour mixture. Now I'm gonna be honest, I'm not an exact measurer. You're not gonna find exact perfect culinary skills on this channel. That's not what we're here for. We're here for magic and intention. So we do 1 teaspoon, a little heaping, oh well, of baking powder. Just drop that in there. And half a teaspoon of baking soda. It's dry. It's okay. Sprinkle that in there. All right, now, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this. Does anybody remember what direction we're gonna whisk it? We're gonna whisk it clockwise. So just take my little whisk here. Since I'm just whisking dry ingredients, I just take my whisk. Kind of push it down in there so it doesn't go absolutely everywhere while I'm stirring it, and give it a good clockwise stir to add in our confidence, healing, positivity. Now, while I'm mixing this into the wet mixture, let me tell you who Angrbodas really is. So I'm going to slowly add in the dry mixture into our wet mixture. 1 gigantic serving tablespoon at a time. You can do it however you want. So let me tell you about Angrbodas. If you haven't heard of her before the God of War game came out, which, great game, don't get me wrong. Angrbodas is the Witch of Ironwood in Norse mythology. She is the mother of Fenrir, Hel, and Jormungandr, and a lot more than that actually, but we'll get to that. So in the Eddas, Angrbodas is only named 1 time. It said that Loki begat Fenrir with the witch Angrbodas. That's all it says. There are many other times that she's mentioned, but you have to take context clues. And you have to really comprehend and understand what you're reading, which I'll be honest with the Edda is hard to do if you're not used to comprehending things like that. And it was hard for me at first. I read so many versions and so many translations, and there were so many times that I'm like, I just don't understand what I'm reading. Why even bother at this point? And the thing that made me happy that I found is there is a poem called Baldur's Drama, or Baldur's Dream. And it is a poem of the Edda that talks about when Baldur starts having nightmares about that he's going to die. And Odin says, I'll take care of this. And he takes off riding on Sleipnir, rides to Hell. And when he gets there, he brings a vulva, which for those of you who don't know what that word is and think that it's a female anatomy part, it is a Norse seeress or Norse witch with very specific rules. It's a little bit more complicated than just a Norse witch, but he raises her from the dead. And he says, Vulva, tell me what's going to happen. Look into the future and tell me. And she's like, who are you? Why are you waking me up? And he says, my name is Vegtum, and I've come to see what's going to happen to Odin's son. And she answers the question and kind of dances around the answer, let's be honest. And then says, I will say no more. I'm going back to sleep. And he says, no, Vulva, be not silent. Tell me, what will happen with this? And she's like, okay. So she answers again and she goes, now I will be silent. And he goes, no, Vulva, be not silent. Answer my questions. So they do this probably, I want to say it's over 5 times. It's a lot. It's very, if you're not a morning person, it's too much. And she looks at him and she goes, you are not Vegtum as I once believed, but you are Odin in disguise. I will say no more to you. And he says, you are not some vulva as I thought you were. Rather, you are the mother of Thursar's 3. Thursars means monsters. Angrboda is called the mother of monsters because she has Hel, Jormungandr, and Fenrir. Now, I don't count them as monsters. However, to those who don't work with them, don't understand, or don't know, they're little monsters to think about. You know, giant wolf, giant snake, and half-dead lady. It's kind of monstery, but they're not. So it's confirmed right there in that part of that poem. Angrboda died. Now, this could be for so many reasons. This is UPG coming in here. All right, everybody get ready. So now UPG is when it is a unverified personal gnosis. So that means that I have a feeling and I have a thought, and through my meditation, I've found certain things. I'm not going to tell you facts and pretend that I know everything. I don't know. We don't have a full telling of the Edda. We don't have a full telling of everything because all we have is the Edda written by Snorri, who was a Christian monk trying to get in the good graces of a king. That's it. So we lost a lot. And that's one of the reasons that the Norse community, the good parts even, have a lot of arguing among ourselves because it's, well, no, you can't worship Loki because he's evil. Where does it say that? Or, no, you can't work with Angrboda, she's not a goddess. Where does it say that? You know, in Norse culture, if you venerated somebody as a god, even if it was a hero that you venerated as a god, they were venerated. That's it. You held them as a god. And there's nothing wrong with that. So there's a lot of old versus new. There's unfortunately a lot of negative people who have stolen culture aspects and things like that, but we're not going to talk about that yet. That's not for today. And one of the things I'm trying to do is help show that Norse pagans are not all that, as in not evil, not bad. The people who stole our symbols do not represent us. And I want to show a little bit of magic while doing so. Now, Angrboda is also called the Chief of Chiefs, which means that there were probably multiple tribes within Ironwood, and even those multiple tribes, their chiefs would come to Angrboda and say, hey, what do we do? You know, oh, there's a battle, come with us. You know, we can't go without Angrboda. So it's thought that because she is a Jotun, or Jotnar, that she would have been extremely tall. A lot of people call them giants. Jotnar is just another race in the 9 realms. 8 realms, 9 realms. We'll get to that later as well. And that does not mean that she was a giant or she was troll looking or terrifying. She's just another person. She's just from another realm. That looking down upon her because she is a Jotun and thinking that Loki is evil is some things that need to be deconstructed from Christianity that have influenced Norse paganism. Now, I've talked enough about that. Our mixture is all mixed together. Now I get to show you the fun part. Now I've got the oven preheating to 325. You normally bake these cookies at 350, but when you add honey in, you have to drop the temperature down by 25 degrees. Otherwise, it's gonna burn the honey. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my avocado oil spray. I've already tinfoiled my pan, and I'm just gonna give it a light spray so that my cookies don't stick. Now, my cookies don't normally stick, but I know since I'm filming this that if I don't spray it, my cookies are gonna stick. Now, the next thing I'm gonna do is add my pine nuts. So again, because Angrbodas is Witch of Ironwood, pine is associated with her, and pine nuts are one of my offerings that I give to her, as well as burning the pine needles and pine scented things. So normally the ingredients are for half a cup of pine nuts. I dump them until the ancestors say no, and I'm almost out, so chaos cooking. Now, you can toast your pine nuts. If you prefer toasted pine nuts, that is totally okay. I like them just as is. I don't toast them. Again, personal. I remember I added more almond extract. It's all up to what you personally like and what you personally feel. Now I'm going to fold these in. I probably would add more pine nuts if I had them, but again, broke and cooking with what I have. So now that the pine nuts are all stirred in, we're going to let the oven preheat while I get these on the pan, and I'm going to show you something really fun that we're going to do with them. So I've already washed my hands. Again, these are my cookies, so even if I hadn't, that's my problem. So I'm gonna roll my cookies into little balls and just drop them on my cookie sheet. Now, when you're doing this, we're not being specific here. Again, you're not gonna find exact culinary skills on my channel, so we're just gonna roll them and drop them on there. They don't have to be perfect. You can actually scoop them with a spoon. I know sometimes I have texture issues because I have a little bit of autism, and that is okay. So texture issues don't always allow me to do this, but right now it's not bothering me, so we're gonna go with it. Now, these cookies don't expand very much. They usually stay about the shape that they are, which is good because you don't have to worry about them sticking to each other. And even if they do, cut them apart and eat them. They're delicious, it's fine. So, we're going to get all of these cookies onto the baking sheet, and then we're gonna do something a little bit extra that I just happen to have, and I think we'll add an extra little touch to the cookies. So while I'm rolling out these last few cookies, we're going to talk about kitchen magic in general. So one of the things I want to show on my page with cooking magic is that you do not have to be any type of specific pagan, witch, anything to do kitchen magic and do cooking magic. There is no closed aspects to it. It is healing magic and things that our ancestors have done for so long. I actually practiced kitchen magic when I was younger and didn't realize it. I loved stirring things only clockwise. I liked mixing teas together to make me feel better, even when I didn't realize what the teas were doing. Now that I'm older, I'm like, oh wow, how did I know that? Who knows? It could have been absolute luck. It could have been my ancestors going, use the chamomile. We don't know. And that's one of the things about magic. You have to believe in it for it to work. That's the thing with any belief, honestly. If you don't believe in it, it's not going to work. I'm going to make one giant cookie. This is the last of the dough, and I don't want to split it into two, and there's only one more space, so we get a big cookie. Big cookie, see? Big cookie. Now, here's the fun part. So I actually have little bitty, teeny tiny pine cones. So this pine cone has been washed and oiled. I use it in the kitchen all the time, and let me show you what I'm going to do. So this is my kitchen pine cone. You thought I was joking. So it's been washed and oiled. I use it all the time. So we're just going to take it, push it into the cookie, pull it right back out. And it leaves a little pine cone imprint. So again, I do this with the same pine cone. I wash, I oil it. I take care of it kind of like I take care of a wooden spoon. And it just adds that extra little touch, extra little piece of the forest, extra little bit of magic. into my cookies. So we've got our cookies on the pan. We've got them all with little, it's almost like a thumbprint cookie because we've got the little mark from the baby pine cone. My oven is preheated at 325. Now it's time to put them in the oven and wait for them to get done. Now I set the timer for 10 minutes. These cookies can take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. It honestly depends on the Magick and how it's feeling. It really just depends on how dark you like your cookies. I don't like mine very dark. All right, so we just took them out of the oven and look at that bottom, golden brown. I let them cool a little bit, but they're still very, very, very hot. See these two? They went together, but that's okay. See, they come right apart. They're still very squishy and soft. Now let me let them cool so I can go ahead and try one. All right, now my cookie is nice and cooled off. You can see that cute little pine cone print on there, the nice golden brown bottom. I'm just gonna break it so you can see how soft they are. Ooh, still super hot. These are really soft, so you don't have to worry about them being too crispy. Ooh. They don't have any glaze on them. You don't have to add any glaze, though I do love adding pine needle jelly on top, but that's a recipe for another day. I hope you enjoyed, and the recipe will be down in the description. Have a great day.